Now, I haven't paid much attention to conspiracy theorists so far, at least not on my YouTube channel. I've spent a lot more time on the religious and political crazies, but sometimes these things coincide, and you just have to try to stop laughing long enough to respond. Even funnier, this particular video was sent to me on Facebook by someone called Azan Gohar, who buys into this whole nonsense, and apparently they had no clue who they were sending it to. I think it's more than likely they were just spamming to all the non-religious pages they could find, and boy did they ever make a mistake. So anyhow, let's go take a look at this crazy end-of-the-world prediction and see why these nutty conspiracy theories are really so laughable. Now, I will admit that before I knew anything about this video, before I got farther than just the first few seconds, I knew religion played into it somewhere. Religion always plays into these crazy conspiracy screeds. People who are dumb enough to believe these things are always dumb enough to believe in imaginary friends in the sky. I can't remember a single one of these that I've seen that hasn't included Bible prophecy or some call for salvation in it, and unfortunately, this is no exception.
The end times are here.
Do you have any idea how many times people have said that over the years? The end times, at least according to the religious crazies, have been here constantly for thousands of years. Wikipedia has a long list of them. In fact, just since 1900, they list 87 end time predictions. And you know how many of them have come true? None of them! Absolutely none of them. Don't you think these religious wingnuts would figure that out by now? But no. Every year, a couple of them spout another laughable claim that the sky is falling and we're all supposed to quake in fear and join their ridiculous cults. No thanks. I buy into reality.
Natural disasters wreak havoc all over the world.
Yes they do. And you know why? Because they're natural. They happen in nature. We humans like to think that we're in control when really we're not. The planet, and I'm anthropomorphizing it a bit, really couldn't care less about us. It goes on and does what it does without a second's thought about what those disasters do to us. But you will notice that every time a tornado hits, every time a hurricane makes landfall, every time there's an earthquake, there's some preacher banging on his holy book saying that it's a message from God. No, it isn't. This is reality knocking on the door of your religious fantasies. Grow the fuck up.
Prophecies are being fulfilled.
They are? Really? Name one. And by prophecy, I don't mean some vague idea that contains no specific predictions. I mean something that is demonstrable. Event A will happen on date B under circumstances C, D, and E. Find me one of those that comes to pass exactly as described. You can't do it because no prophecies work that way. They're all just a vague load of bullshit.
Hatred prevails.
And you know where most of that hatred comes from? Yep, you guessed it. Religion. The majority of hatred and intolerance these days comes from the halls of religion, be it Islam or Christianity or Buddhism or whatever. The nations, cultures, and societies that are the least religious are also the most tolerant. Imagine that. You don't see bands of atheists strapping on bomb vests and blowing up innocents in the pursuit of their cause. That's all on religion, guys.
Destruction is imminent.
What kind of destruction? Now, this has been a common mantra forever, and it never ever comes true. Humanity is consistently growing, building, and improving over time. The things that we do overall improve society and make humanity healthier, stronger, and more efficient. If you think that's destructive, I don't know what the hell you've been smoking.
Scientists have discovered a huge comet heading toward Earth.
He's talking about an asteroid discovered in 2004 called 99942 Apophis, which caused a little concern back in the day when it was thought that there was a 2.7% chance that it would hit Earth on April 13th, 2029. I have no idea where this 2026 nonsense comes from. Later, it was revealed that it would not hit in 2029, although there was a tiny possibility it might come around for a second pass in 2036. This has also been eliminated. The odds of said asteroid hitting the Earth in the next pass in 2068 has been calculated as 1 in 149,000. In other words, there's nothing to worry about. In astronomical terms, we can expect that an object the size of Apophis will hit the Earth every 80,000 years. The world hasn't ended yet, and I'm not sure why we're supposed to worry now. Interestingly enough, the discoverers of this asteroid, Roy A. Tucker, Fabrizio Bernardi, and David J. Tholen of the Kitt Peak National Observatory, they were big Stargate SG-1 fans and named the asteroid after the Goa'uld bad guy Apophis. Kind of makes you feel good to be a geek, doesn't it?
But there is hope. The awaited one's advent has already taken place. His image has become visible on the moon. When calamity strikes, look towards this image for your salvation.
The awaited one? Awaited by whom exactly? I wasn't waiting for him, were you? Oh. Awaited by the gullible, I get it. And his image is on the moon? Says who? What you're seeing is something called pareidolia. It's a psychological phenomenon involving the brain perceiving a familiar pattern where no such pattern actually exists. It's what's responsible for things like Jesus on toast and the Virgin Mary in mold sightings. Of course, it's also not limited to religious phenomenon. The face on Mars at Cydonia is another well-known example of something that isn't really there. People just see what they want to see and assign it significance that it doesn't warrant. Now, if you go over to this guy's website, and I'm linking that below in the description, you'll find a ton of these supposed images that they're really, really impressed with, but which anybody with an ounce of skepticism will look at and laugh. These people are just a joke.
The awaited one, Ra-Riaz Gohar-Shahi, declares this comet is said to hit Earth in 2026. That will be the last day of Earth.
Now, he's welcome to declare whatever he wants, but he's not only completely off on any possible date, but science has already shown that there's a virtual impossibility that we'll get hit in any of the next 3 go-arounds, and frankly, guys, science has a much better track record than religion does, so I think I'm going to go with science on this one.
Recognize these divine faces today to prevent disappointment tomorrow.
Now, why does that sound like a marketing gimmick? In fact, isn't there a commercial that used to run on late night television from the Franklin Mint that used a similar phrase? You know, buy our products now to avoid disappointment and future regret?
For more, visit www.2026.com.
Oh yes, by all means, go to that website. It's a hoot. Now, granted, it's a lot better put together than a lot of the conspiracy theorist wingnut nonsense that you usually see. The ones that look like they were written by someone who barely got through HTML for dummies and are just ranting incoherently. They put some work into this. Unfortunately, putting some work into it doesn't make any of the things that they're saying any more intelligible. Ah, there we go. And if we look into the Messiah Foundation International, we find that it's a nutty amalgamation of Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and Hindu prophecy set up in 2002. Originally founded in Pakistan, it's now outlawed there because, according to the government, it's blasphemous toward Islam, and we all know how tolerant these people are. So far as I can see, the group is generally peaceful, although certainly batshit insane. I don't see them blowing anyone up or setting off sarin bombs in the subways like other religious groups, but still, their ideology is asinine and completely unsupported by anything remotely resembling objective evidence. Their awaited one can't even get his dates right, which is really not impressive for someone supposedly appointed by God. Therefore, rational people must reject it as laughable, at least until and unless they can actually produce evidence to support their claims. Anyone holding their breath until they do? Me either. Now you might wonder why I'm calling this a conspiracy theorist outfit, so I'll tell you. Like a lot of them, they seem to be convinced that there's a conspiracy afoot trying to keep them from getting the true message of the awaited one out to the world, warning everyone about the impending disaster that's going to entirely fail to come about, so that in 2027, they'll have to come up with some kind of an explanation why the world didn't end in 2026. Now, I don't really care if they spread ridiculous ideas. At least in the Western world, people have every right to say whatever crazy nonsense comes into their little pea brains, but to pretend that there's a shadowy conspiracy to keep your secret truth from coming to light, that's the central core of the conspiracy theorist. And that brings me around to another point, one that I've brought up from time to time, but which I really think I ought to make a video about. If you look at the central defining characteristics of conspiracy theorists, you're going to notice that they're almost, without exception, virtually identical to the central defining characteristics of the religious. And the more religious one is, the more they look like a conspiracy theorist and vice versa. It's the same kind of crazy, so it's really no wonder that they cross over so often. But anyhow, nobody has to worry. Actual science shows that 99942 Apophis is not going to hit the planet in 2026 or any other date in the next 50 years, and we already have plans to nudge it out of the way if it ever looked otherwise. The world is not ending, at least not like this. It's just a membership drive by yet another crazy religious cult trying to scare the credulous into buying into their unsupported bullshit. It's flashy, but it's certainly not credible. Rational people ought never give this kind of thing a second glance. And there you go. Another screwy claim down the drain. What did you think? Please let me know in the comments. And for you MFI guys, if you have any actual evidence, testable, objective, verifiable evidence of anything you have to say, by all means post it, and I'd be more than happy to retract this video. But we all know you don't, and that's okay, because you're just a joke. That's why everyone laughs at you, and should continue to do so. That's how critical thought works.